14th century, one man owned half of all the gold on the planet and was so rich he could buy any European country 3 times over. His name was Mansa Musa. He ruled the Mali Empire in West Africa, and his fortune is estimated at $400 billion in today's money. When he set out on pilgrimage, his caravan stretched for several kilometers. 60,000 people, 12,000 slaves, and 80 camels laden with gold. Each camel carried 50 kilograms of pure gold, and the emperor himself gave away gold bars to everyone he met, like small change. In Cairo, he gave away so much gold that he brought down the entire Egyptian economy for 12 years. Prices soared tenfold, currency depreciated, and people went bankrupt. Behind all the grandeur and gold of the Mali Empire lay millions of slaves, captured in neighboring lands and sold like cattle in the markets. The slaves mined gold in mines up to 300 meters deep, worked 18 hours a day, and died of exhaustion after 2 or 3 years. They built Africa's greatest mosques and palaces, hauling stones weighing hundreds of kilograms under the scorching sun, and if they fell from exhaustion, they were replaced with new ones. When Emperor Mansa Musa took 12,000 silk-clad slaves on a pilgrimage, less than half survived the return. The rest died en route. The slave trade was the mainstay of the empire's economy, and without a constant flow of slaves, there would have been no gold, no great cities, no wealth for the rulers. The Mali Empire grew rich not only from gold, but also from a white powder, which today costs pennies, but was then valued as a precious metal. Salt was so expensive that desert merchants would exchange 1 kilogram of salt for 1 kilogram of pure gold, because without salt, meat rots within a day. Caravans of 10,000 camels crossed the Sahara Desert, carrying salt blocks from north to south, and gold, ivory, and slaves in the return journey. The journey across the desert lasted 4 months. Temperatures reached 50 degrees Celsius, and every third person died of thirst, yet the caravans continued without stopping. The skeletons of tens of thousands of camels and people who had not made it were buried in the sand along the trade routes, yet trade continued unabated. At the edge of the Sahara Desert stood 3 cities that, in the 14th century, were richer than Paris, London, and Rome combined. Timbuktu was the center of global trade, where caravans from Europe, Asia, and all of Africa met, and gold flowed like a river through hundreds of markets and shops. In the city of Djenné stood a magnificent clay mosque, 20 meters high, which could accommodate 12,000 people in prayer at a time. Gao was the capital of the empire, where the emperor lived in a palace the size of 10 football fields, guarded by 5,000 soldiers day and night. These cities were so developed and secure that travelers would leave their sacks of gold unguarded on the streets, and no one would touch them.
Hold him, fam.
Timbuktu was home to the University of Sankore, where 25,000 students from Africa, Asia, and even Europe studied at any one time. Mathematics, astronomy, medicine, chemistry, law, and philosophy were taught there at a level superior to Oxford and the Sorbonne at the time. The city's libraries housed 700,000 handwritten books, each one taking months to copy by hand and costing as much as a large house and its land. Books were covered in gold leaf, adorned with rubies and emeralds, and wealthy families passed down the libraries as their greatest treasures. Local surgeons performed eye surgeries and removed cataracts, and astronomers accurately predicted eclipses, while in Europe, such practices were met with the death penalty. The 200-kilometer-long Niger River, Africa's 3rd longest river and the artery of civilization, flows through the entire Mali Empire. The river provided water for rice and millet fields, fish for food for millions of people, and hundreds of boats carrying goods between cities sailed along it daily. All the empire's major cities stood on its banks, because even 1,000 people could not survive in the desert without a constant source of water. Every year during the rainy season, the river flooded tens of kilometers wide, flooding fields and leaving fertile silt for future harvests. But when the climate began to change and rains became less frequent, the river's level dropped by 3 meters, crops failed, and famine spread throughout the empire. After Mansa Musa's death in 1337, the empire began to fall apart within a matter of decades. His heirs proved weak rulers and, instead of governing the country, fought each other for the throne, killing brothers and nephews. The vast territory became unmanageable. Provinces refused to pay taxes, and local chieftains declared independence one after another. Gold mines were depleted, salt became cheaper to mine elsewhere, and the empire's main sources of income dried up within 50 years. By the beginning of the 16th century, only the ruins of cities remained of the world's greatest empire, slowly being buried by the sands of the advancing desert. In 1890, the French army invaded Mali and, within 8 years, took over the entire country by force. The French established a brutal regime under which local residents had no rights whatsoever and worked as slaves on cotton plantations. All men between the ages of 16 and 50 were forced to build railways to export resources, and those who refused were shot on the spot without trial. France exported gold, cotton, rubber, timber, and peanuts from Mali, but failed to build a single school, hospital, or factory for 70 years. By the time of independence, 95% of the population was illiterate, and people lived worse than under the medieval emperors 500 years earlier. In 1960, Mali gained independence, but its first president, Modibo Keïta, led the country through disaster. He attempted to build socialism along Soviet lines, nationalizing all private enterprises, and the economy collapsed by half within 3 years. In 1968, the military staged a coup, arrested the president, and a week later he died in prison from torture. Since then, Mali has seen 5 military coups, with power changing through violence every 10 years, with presidents overthrown, imprisoned, or assassinated. Democracy has never taken root in the country in 60 years because the army constantly interferes in politics and prevents anyone from governing peacefully. Mali's underground mines contain vast gold and uranium reserves worth hundreds of billions of dollars, but the country has only suffered war. Foreign companies from Canada and China have seized the gold mines, pocketing 90% of the profits, while workers are paid $1 a day. Uranium mining began in the 1950s and was used to create French nuclear bombs and nuclear power plant reactors. Around each major mine, there is constant fighting between the army, rebels, and terrorists, all seeking to control the mines and sell the metal. Ordinary residents receive nothing from the natural resources, but instead breathe toxic dust, drink contaminated water, and live under fire.
Don't drink that! It's bad water!
Since the early 1970s, Mali's climate has changed catastrophically, with precipitation falling 3 times less and rainfall almost ceasing. The Sahara Desert is advancing south at a rate of 5 kilometers per year, engulfing villages and turning fertile fields into dead sand. In the 1980s, drought and mass famine killed 120,000 people, leaving 3 million homeless without livestock or land. The Niger River has become so shallow that in some places it can be crossed knee-deep on foot. Fishermen are losing their jobs and are unable to feed their children. Now, 50% of Mali's population lives at risk of famine. Harvests are declining every year, and food must be imported from other countries. Despite poverty, war, and famine, Mali gave the world music that forever changed modern culture. It gave birth to the blues style, which later evolved into rock, jazz, hip-hop, and almost all the music listened to by billions of people today. Malian musicians Ali Farka Touré and Toumani Diabaté have won 3 Grammy Awards and performed at major world festivals to audiences of millions. Griots, hereditary musicians and storytellers who have conveyed Mali's history through song for 700 years, still live in the country. For Malians, music is more than just entertainment. It is the only way to preserve the memory of their great past and pass it on to their children. In 2012, Islamists and terrorists seized control of the entire northern half of the country, including ancient Timbuktu. They imposed the harshest form of Sharia law, banned music, closed girls, schools, and began publicly executing people for any violations. The militants burned 4,000 ancient manuscripts in Timbuktu's libraries, destroying cultural heritage dating back 700 years. France deployed 4,000 troops and recaptured major cities in 3 months of fighting, but the terrorists retreated into the desert and continue their attacks daily. Now the entire north of the country is an active war zone, where civilians, soldiers, and peacekeepers are killed daily, with no end in sight. In 2021, Mali's military government expelled the French and officially invited Russian mercenaries from the Wagner Group. The Wagner Group arrived under the pretext of fighting terrorists, but immediately seized control of the country's gold mines and uranium deposits. The mercenaries have been massacring entire villages, accusing the residents of supporting terrorists, and have killed more than 500 civilians in 2 years. Russia receives free access to Mali's gold and uranium in exchange for military protection for the junta, which clings to power only by force of arms. European countries and the United States imposed sanctions and cut off aid, but this only worsened the lives of ordinary people, while the mercenaries gained ground. Today, Mali is among the 5 poorest countries on the planet, with 60% of people living on less than $2 a day. Half of all children under 5 suffer from acute malnutrition. Their bodies and brains fail to develop normally, and 1 in 10 dies before reaching their first birthday. The country has only 1 hospital per million people. 90% of the population has never seen a doctor and relies on local herbalists for treatment. Only 30% of adults can read and write because there are almost no proper schools, and those that exist have been destroyed by war or stand empty. The average life expectancy is 59 years, 25 years less than the global average. No one can predict what will happen to Mali next, because absolutely all of its problems are only getting worse year after year. The climate is getting hotter, water is becoming scarcer, terrorists control half the territory, and the government is held together only by the bayonets of foreign mercenaries. Young people are fleeing the country en masse, crossing the desert and the sea to Europe. Thousands drown every year, but the flow never stops. Hundreds of billions of dollars worth of gold and uranium are still buried in the ground, but instead of helping the people, they attract only soldiers, terrorists, and thieves. Mali was once the richest empire in the world, owning half the planet's gold, and today it is one of the most dangerous and impoverished places on Earth. If you found this interesting, subscribe so you don't miss new episodes. We keep it short and to the point.